What's going on, everybody? How the hell are you? I'm Jerry, and we've got my Week 11 biggest takeaways. Every game this week, we'll go over details, some a lot more than others. A lot of blowouts this week, also a lot of close games. So let's get right into it. First game we had was Bengals Ravens, and this was a good game until Joe Burrow goes down. So we put Burrow goes down. I just put Jake Browning was not enough. He did well on with his legs, scrambling around a little bit. But the defense just could not keep up with the Ravens. The Ravens are one of the most well rounded teams in the NFL. Mark Andrews goes down for the Ravens. OBJ goes off, though, and he has a great day, finally beating out Zay Flowers for that kind of wide receiver one role. And then I already mentioned well rounded team from the Ravens. Again, once Joe Burrow went down, there wasn't really much hope for the Bengals. Their defense had been solid at getting pressure, but when you have a mobile quarterback like Lamar Jackson, just not as likely. Ravens take down the Bengals 34-20. Next, we had the Chargers Packers. In this game, another really close game, but it was these are both kind of teams, now that I'm looking at it, that typically will have a lot of problems. Maybe good rosters, but just can't win games, find ways to lose games. And the Packers so far this year had been the team where they'll play well in the first half, they'll play horrible in the first half and be playing catch up the whole time and having to try to come back and win and haven't been great at it. So this is a good week for them, especially against the Chargers. Tough to tell what this is going to mean though, because the Chargers haven't been able to win games. So it's kind of par for the course for them too, for them to lose. But Herbert plays well as usual. Eckler should have gotten more touches. He only had 10 carries and then 2 receptions. I don't know what happened there. He was very efficient running the ball when he got it. I don't know why they decided not to give him the ball more, but he's one of their biggest star players. You can argue for Keenan Allen, but with how much Eckler usually gets the ball, you could definitely point to that as a issue as to why that happened there. So then I also put Quentin Johnson. He gets the drop at the end. If he catches that, they win the game. So you could point to a lot of one plays in the game where if this is different, Chargers could have won, but that's again kind of what the Chargers have been. And then the Packers, a lot of injury problems. We have Aaron Jones go down, and then the backup Emmanuel Wilson gets carted off the field. Aaron Jones has just consistently been an injury nuisance to the team. But the team battled through it. Love has a breakout game. A lot of good plays to Romeo Doubs and Jaden Reed. Jaden Reed had a bit of a, maybe not a breakout game. He's had some games like that this year, but another good game from him, kind of showing what these young receivers can do. And the Packers end up taking it away 23-20. Next game we have is coming up, Titans Jaguars. Derrick Henry was a non-factor. Costly fumbles. I think it was Will Levis, and then there was somebody else that fumbled. I don't remember his name. But that doesn't help. We go down early. Actually, I think the Titans were in it a little bit, if I'm remembering correctly, in this game. But you look here, Titans 38 total plays to the Jaguars 69. That is a big problem there. So I didn't get to see as much of this game as I would like. Obviously, like a lot of people, I use Red Zone to try to watch as many games as possible. When this one became a blowout, there wasn't really much going on. There was a DeAndre Hopkins touchdown late, which was just kind of, pity points at the end of the game. Really didn't mean anything. They were already down by so much. But Jaguars dominated the whole game. Defense just locked down Levis. I mean, Levis had that one good week, and last week he played all right, but it's been rough for Levis. And he's a rookie, so you expect it. But yeah, I think he kind of got overhyped after that first game. It was like one of the first plays of the game. Will Levis fumbles the handoff. So there's just little stuff like that causes problems. And I put Calvin Ridley's back for the Jaguars. Oddly enough, Zay Jones comes back, and then Calvin Ridley. They showed a stat, I think, where games with Calvin Ridley Calvin Ridley's games with Zay Jones significantly better than without, which makes no sense whatsoever. That you get another semi-talented receiver back, and somehow that makes the other one better. Maybe because he's a good route runner or whatnot. But good game for the Jaguars all around. Travis Etienne had a little bit of an off game. I mean, he didn't play bad, but he just didn't dominate, or not dominate, but he didn't play as well as he had in these past 4 or 5 weeks. Doesn't matter though. Jaguars end up winning 34-14, big win there. Raiders Dolphins. This game was a lot closer. What did I surprisingly defensive game? Wow, that's not even close. Okay, well, defensive game is what that's supposed to say. All right, so we had a couple issues as far as turnovers. Tua fumbles. We had Julian Hill fumbles, both for the Dolphins. And I put in there as the offense losing speed because in these last, I think it's 3 or 4 games, the Dolphins have barely been scoring 20 points, and some games didn't even score 20 points. Whereas early on in the year, they were scoring 30 every game, and they had 70 and 40. So I don't know what's going on. I don't know if people are catching on because the Raiders, although they have Max Crosby and some other nice pieces, it to me, they shouldn't have had enough to stop the Dolphins as much as they did, to the point where Aiden O'Connell had a chance at the end. That's why I put couldn't finish, is because Aiden O'Connell, if you're a Raiders fan looking forward, you could at least be confident that that's a benefit to have a young quarterback playing like he's playing. He's going to have hiccups in his rookie year. He's going to make mistakes. But you're seeing promising things. Some balls that are right on the money. Now, there's some that are inaccurate, but all quarterbacks do that. So I think that's something you can take away from this game, at least, is the Raiders just playing surprisingly, or Aiden O'Connell playing surprisingly well, and then the defense playing surprisingly well against the Dolphins offense. And then I just put the defense holds out for a win because at the end of the game, Aiden O'Connell couldn't get the ball down the field to win it. But a lot closer than expected. Dolphins only win 20-13. Excuse me. Next, we have Cowboys-Panthers. This one, total domination. Deron Bland has 4 receiving touchdowns, we'll call it. All pick sixes. But and then Panthers had one good drive. They had a drive. It was 17 plays. They were 3 for 3 on 4th down, and it resulted in a touchdown. And that, if you set that aside, the whole rest of the game was awful, and they did not play well. There's not a whole lot to talk about this game. Cowboys just dominated the whole time. Cardinals-Texans, a couple things to talk about here. The defense kind of had their ups and downs. They made a lot of turnovers. They also allowed Stroud to just dime, dot, whatever you want to call it, down the field and just completely mutilate them. But they got the turnovers. Kyler Murray and the offense weren't able to take advantage of the turnovers. And their third down percentage was awful. Whereas the Texans, I want to say the Texans were like 9 for 13. The Cardinals were like 2 or 3 for 8 or 9. So not a good situation for them there. And probably the reason that they lost. I put CJ Stroud to Tank Dell because that to me is kind of a crazy quarterback duo. They didn't go to the same college or anything. No prior experience. And Tank Dell is looking like a clear wide receiver 1 with a rookie quarterback. We got a new offensive coordinator. Like, all this just doesn't seem like it should happen, especially having some down weeks in the middle and then having this game, back here, like, kind of not comparing them, but similar to what happened with the 49ers, where they played not surprisingly well for the 49ers. Texans was surprisingly well, but 49ers played very well, have a stretch of games where they don't play very well, and now they're kind of back, and that's honestly what the Texans are doing so far. And then Devin Singletary is killing it. I thought Damon Pierce was going to have a great year this year, and he suffered some injuries and had some problems there, but Devin Singletary's come in and played significantly better than Damon Pierce has. And you seriously have to look at, well, when they come back, even as a bell cow back, when Singletary's getting 20-plus carries a game, I think he had 30. Did he have 30 last week and 22 this week? I mean, it's all efficient. So, serious question there. What do you do with Damon Pierce when he's healthy? Because he looked really good last year. I don't know if there's a nagging injury or something, but Stroud had 259 passing yards. Tank Dell had 120 receiving yards at halftime. So, phenomenal for them. Cardinals very well could have won this game. Texans just barely squeaked one out again and ends up getting the W. Steelers-Browns. This one, defensive shootout, Kennedy gets fired. I just put what's next because, it's going to be interesting to see. I mean, they're still, at the end of the day, they're a 6-4 team. Not like they're a bad football team at all. So you have to keep that in mind. Is the new offensive coordinator, could they look better? I don't think so, because I don't think Kenny Pickett is even the best quarterback on that team. I think it's because he's youngest. I think between Mason Rudolph and Mitch Trubisky, I think they're both better quarterbacks. I think if you had to pick one, I believe Mason Rudolph's younger, so you'd probably want to go with him, especially because, you see the 1 year, but all quarterbacks struggle in their first year, so to only get, pretty sure Mason Rudolph only had 1 year of starting, and even that, I don't think it was a full season, so might be interesting to see, if the new offensive coordinator is struggling, and, you think you can win with one of the other quarterbacks. Be interesting to see if they try that. I haven't heard anybody calling for that. Everybody's just been calling for Canada to be fired. That's happened, so I'm assuming we'll have to see what happens with Pickett, but if he continues to struggle, you might have to go to one of those quarterbacks. Who knows? But then the Browns, I just put, is this sustainable? Because whatever backup quarterback they have come in, they're being able to win the game, but they're not really playing that well. DTR did not play great at all. He had a nice run, 1 or 2 nice runs, but it was a lot of checkdowns. That's why I put checkdown cities. He really just checking the ball down to Njoku, and Njoku would power forward for a few yards. And the running game wasn't even great this game, which was kind of a surprise because you would think that would be one of their better aspects when a backup quarterback's in, but I don't think it's sustainable. That's why I put, is this sustainable? Because it seems too good to be true that the defense can continually win games when the offense doesn't play well. You're scoring 13 points. You're going to go up against teams in the playoffs, which I do think the Browns will make, but you're going to go up against teams that are going to produce offense. So I don't think it's sustainable, but we'll see what happens. We'll see what they do with the quarterback situation. Doesn't matter because the Browns win 13-10 in a very low-scoring game. Giants-Commanders, I was very wrong about this one. Danny DeVito goes off. The defense forces 6 turnovers. They still only win by 12. That's why I put don't overreact. I think the Commanders as a whole team are kind of in shambles right now. People calling for Ron Rivera to get fired. He hasn't really been making great decisions as a coach, and even in the press conferences after, it just leaves you saying, like, what the hell did I just listen to? But multiple interceptions, fumbles early on by the Commanders, went down early, had to figure it out. Too many turnovers. There's not much to talk about in this game, except I will say, I think you might be able to say that Sam Howell is the guy. He's still throwing the football pretty well for a rookie quarterback. I think it's something to be happy about, or a young quarterback even. It's good to see. He had a powerful run where it looked like he scored a touchdown 3 different times, but they never blew the whistle. And I can't remember. I believe he ended up scoring on that. But yeah, the interceptions have got to slow down. I don't think that's going to be sustainable, especially when you lose. The Commanders lost Sweat and Chase Young on the defensive line, so they're going to need to fill those positions, and the defense is going to need to play better, especially when you let Danny DeVito throw for like 250 yards and 3 touchdowns. So Giants defense for me won this game, put DeVito in easier situations, so he didn't have to go the stretch of the field very often, and they end up winning 31-19. As you can see, a lot of red X's. Got a lot of them wrong this week in my picks. Not super crazy about that, but it happens. This one, we'll talk about the Bears-Lions a little bit. I want to put up another video. I might even just call it a podcast because I love talking about the Bears, and I want to talk more about them. I feel like podcast might be a little bit easier, so we'll see about doing that. But first 55 minutes for the Bears were solid. The play calling was better by Luke Getsy. We saw rollouts. We saw play action. We saw designed runs for Justin Fields, and everything looked a lot better. Offense was moving, and then the whole team collapsed in the last 5 minutes. I put this as a win for Fields because at the end of the day, you can say that he played a game like you could win. There was some moments where I was critical of what happened. The 2 most pivotal ones was towards the end of the game, second to last drive. Getsy calls 2 run plays up the middle, which one was a read option. The read was the running back. And that results, the 2 runs right up the middle though, either way, they got stuffed, and now you've got a 3rd and long. On the 3rd and 10, it was, he bombs it to his rookie wide receiver, Tyler Scott, who he had not targeted much before. So I didn't like that choice. Based on you want to call it the read, that would have been the read because he did defeat the corner on his side. and the safety did come down to DJ Moore, but at the end of the day, the other safety came over, and you're still throwing it up to a rookie wide receiver who wasn't known for his, go up and get it ability. He is a deep threat because of his speed, but that's still a tough ball to catch when you only need a first down. DJ Moore was open across the middle on that, to where you're at the very worst getting 4th and 1 or 4th and 2, likely a first down, because DJ Moore just needs to make one guy miss, or even just run the cornerback that was there over, which is also likely. DJ Moore is probably as close as you can get to Deebo Samuel as far as a running back in the league. But Bears couldn't do it. I put Goff as unfazed because he would just throw interceptions after interceptions, and then there was a fumble too, I think. Yeah, there was a fumble too, not by him, but by his team. He didn't care. He just comes right back out and plays like nothing ever happened, plays like he's going to win the game. I think Dan Campbell probably has something to do with that because of his mentality. But Goff just never batted an eye at any of his picks. He just came back out, did his thing, especially in those last 5 minutes, those last 2 drives. But they should have lost the game, though, because they did not play that game like a winning team. You don't normally give the ball away 4 times, never take the ball away, except for, that safety wasn't a takeaway. It was just a safety at the end. But you typically don't play the game like they played and end up winning. The Bears really just let it go. They continue to play they play the game not to lose as opposed to play to win. And that's what ended up happening. I think the coaching saved the game on the last 2 drives. The Bears did dial up a couple blitzes. They tried to blitz Jack Sanborn and Kyler Gordon a couple times, and Ben Johnson just had an answer for it. Lions played a great game at the end, and that's when you need to do it so you can get the win, and they do, 31-26. Next, we had the Buccaneers 49ers. Didn't see a whole lot of this game, but the run game still struggled for the Buccaneers. Rachaad White is great as far as a fantasy guy because he gets a lot of catches out of the backfield. Honestly, kind of similar to like how CMC is. He's not CMC by any means, but I guess as far as his reliability on a check down, he does do that well. Helps them convert and at least gain yards. But Baker Mayfield struggled. Didn't play the greatest game. I believe he had an interception and a fumble. And the only, they had one good drive. The other drive where they scored, there was 2 huge penalties. I think there was a pass interference that got him a bunch of yards, and then a roughing, or there was some other big penalty that ends up resulting in the Buccaneers scoring both the penalties on the 49ers. And but that was their offense really didn't play well altogether. So that's not going to help. The defense just couldn't do enough. They're the 49ers. They have too many weapons. Buccaneers defense, their team has kind of been defined by their defense plays well, and their offense could play good enough, probably won't. And that's kind of been like the whole picture for the Buccaneers. It put perfect game because Purdy had a perfect game. 21 for 25, 333 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks. I think 3 sacks too. Great game for him. Brandon Ayuk being his main target. I think he had 5 receptions for like 150 and a touchdown. And I put other 49ers back because I don't think you can judge them very well based on this game because I don't really trust the Buccaneers. So 49ers have had their struggles. They're back this week for sure. But moving forward, we're going to have to see some consistency before, we can crown them king of the NFC, especially with the Eagles getting that win over the Chiefs that we'll talk about in just a moment here. Seahawks-Rams. Didn't get to see much of this game either. I saw Kenneth Walker go down. DK Metcalf had a great game. But the Seahawks could not convert on 3rd down. Puka Nacua did pretty well. He had a really nice touchdown right before half. I like the play calling from the Rams. They had a flea flicker to Stafford. Just thought, honestly, in this whole game, especially the Rams, it was just very average. Royce Freeman did not run the ball that well. It was just very, very average. He didn't have any super long runs, and he didn't average very well, but it was not bad. It was right around 4 yards a carry. I think it was a little under. And then there was really bad penalties on both sides. The Seahawks had 12 penalties for 100 plus yards, which really was the reason that they lost, I think, as well as not being able to convert on third down, those kind of go hand in hand. If you're having costly penalties that result in third and long, or you get a first down, but then it's called back from a penalty, you're kicking yourself there, and that happened. And then the Rams had a lot of penalties too. They just had less and ended up winning the game, playing very average football against a Seahawks team that played a safe game. Geno played a safe game, but did not end up getting the win. This is another one. Never had a chance. We had Zach Wilson. He's benched officially. Tim Boyle is going to be the quarterback moving forward. I put total domination. Bills had been struggling too. I put are the Bills back because, again, I don't think you can judge this game either. You like to see 32 points for the Bills against the Jets, who have had a good defense. But I still don't think the Jets are a very impressive team. So you kind of have to take this one with a grain of salt. But the Bills absolutely dominate the Jets and win that game. Vikings-Broncos was a really close game. But Dobbs needs to protect the ball. First play, Dobbs fumbles, recovers it. Third play, Dobbs fumbles again, and the on a design, I think it was a designed run, and Broncos recover. The Vikings did continue to get good pressure, but as I put over there, Russ had really good pocket presence, and he was navigating the pocket really well, kind of like classic Russ, and was able to kind of eliminate the blitzing problem that the Minnesota Vikings under Brian Flores' defense are. That's where they have the highest blitz rate, still over 50% blitz rate from the Vikings, and the Broncos were able to counter that really well. So whatever Sean Payton or whoever was drawing it up, they definitely had his number there. And then I put KOC had some great play calling because they had some fun plays. There was the fake punt to Ty Chandler is who the name I was looking for. And just I like the play calling by Kevin O'Connell. I think he knows what he's doing. The Vikings win this game if they just don't turn the ball over. But the Broncos have been doing a really good job at forcing turnovers these past few weeks. But that's what won the game. I also put Russ spread the ball around. All the receivers fairly even in targets, between receivers, tight ends, whatever. It was he spread the ball around good and kind of kept the Vikings guessing, and it resulted in the Broncos winning. But the Vikings covering that 2.5-point spread. And then the last game, Chiefs-Eagles. I really thought the Eagles would lose this one. Thought the Chiefs would win. It really came down to, early on the problem that we saw where the Chiefs wide receivers just cannot hang on to the ball. They can't catch the ball. You have a costly drop by Justin Watson at the end. You also have, who was the other one that had the bad drop? Oh, Valdez-Scantling. Valdez-Scantling had a horrible drop. That was a touchdown. I mean, that would have won the game. But for the Eagles, tush-push. The defense was nuts. Jalen Carter almost intercepted the spike. That was cool. But yeah, the Eagles' defensive line was getting pressure all game, and I think their defensive the results, like for the lack of Chiefs offense, I think part of it definitely was from the lack of receiver play. But you also have to factor in the Eagles do have a pretty good defense. Although they've been average so far this year, they were able to do enough in this game to where the Eagles were able to win. The Eagles also did not play very well in the first half. Jalen Hurts is on my fantasy team and had like 1.4 points at halftime. They weren't really able to generate much offense. It's kind of a punt fest, to be honest, early on. But end of the game, you have a costly Travis Kelce fumble in the red zone. So there was he fumbled in the red zone, and then Kevin Byard picked off Mahomes in the red zone. So right there, I mean, that's 6 points. A turn, even if you just get field goals there, where they would have won the game. Then Devonta Smith gets a crazy catch at the end, and then the 99% play, the tush-push, takes him into the end zone, and that ends up getting the win. Last thing I had to highlight here is Chris Jones and how much of an animal he was this game. He seemed like he was all over the place. There was multiple times where he came in unblocked, which I could not believe that was happening. And even when he was blocked, he was definitely slicing and dicing up that Eagles offensive line that we know and love so much to be one of the best in the league. But doesn't matter. At the end of the day, Eagles end up winning, beating the Chiefs, and continuing to win by like one score, like they seemingly always do. So let's go over the leaders. We've got, I also got the fun facts. Sam Howell's consistently been on the completion and passing attempts department. He's has the most passing attempts every time, which is why I say that I think it's kind of impressive what he's doing this year. Sure, he throws a lot of interceptions, but this is his rookie year. Peyton Manning threw a lot of interceptions. Don't think Sam Howell's going to be Peyton Manning, but I think he's a good young quarterback for the start at least. You know, to um, to start a franchise with. I think he's a good baseline. And then you got C.J. Stroud with the most passing yards. Still can't believe he had like 230 in the first half, but good from him there. Brock Purdy has a perfect passer rating. Raheem Mostert and Devin Singletary tie for most carries at 22. Jaylen Warren has 129 rushing yards on 9. Definitely was in the running for I'm Jerry Player of the Week. They end up with the loss, and a lot of that was on one 75 or 76 yard run. So that's why that isn't he isn't the player of the week. Spoiled a little bit there. And then Tyreek Hill, Keenan Allen, 10 receptions. I don't need to go over all this. You guys can read it. Most turnovers though was Giants, highlighted in orange. Why? Didn't mean to do that. I think you know what. I had the Bears because the Bears had 4 turnovers. Then I remembered the Giants had 6. Never changed color. Who cares? NFL fun facts. DaRon Bland now has as many touchdowns as Travis Kelce, Devontae Adams, and more than DK Metcalf, Tony Pollard, Jalen Waddle. So impressive. People talk about how necessary Trevon Diggs was in that defense and how he's so good at making turnovers. Well, maybe the scheme has something to do with it. It obviously takes the player to do it, but with DaRon Bland having all the interceptions he has and 4 for touchdowns, says something about the defense and the way the scheme plays. Obviously helps to have Gilly Locke over there too. But Brock Purdy now has 4 games with 140 or higher passer rating and 3 touchdowns, most ever by a quarterback in his first 2 seasons. Next most being Kurt Warner with 3. So very impressive there, especially because he didn't play all of last year. I don't know how many games it is, but it can't be much. It can't be more than 20 total so far. So very impressive from Brock Purdy. And the reason why Brock Purdy is the I'm Jerry Player of the Week. I had to put Brock Purdy in there. 21 for 25, 84% completion percentage. We talked about this earlier. He played a great game. I think he got sacked 3 times. But Brock Purdy, more than worthy of the Player of the Week. It was tough. I almost put Ayuk in here because Ayuk did have about half of the receiving yards for the team and a touchdown, and was a big reason as to why that happened. And Brock Purdy had the day that he did, but it was kind of the 84% completion percentage, and he had a passing touchdown to CMC, had one to Kittle, perfect passer rating. You can't really argue with it. I also didn't want to pick them because they kind of dominated the Buccaneers, so I was trying to find a better player, but there wasn't really the one like standout player. Like you could have said Chris Jones with how much he was in the backfield. He had 4 tackles for a loss, 2 sacks, and he lived in the backfield against a strong Eagles offensive line, but they lost. Same thing with Jaylen Warren. He wasn't a game changer, and his stats were kind of inflated because of the big run. So Brock Purdy is deserving of the Player of the Week. Getting a dominating win and showing that he can consistently throw the ball and spread the ball around, get it to different guys. And then finally here we have my stats so far this season, which not a great week for me. Another 7-7 week. I was 5-9 against the spread. Don't love that. The better rushing team record, I talk about it every week. It's 109-54, so still double. So what is that? 66%. Win percentage there for the better rushing team. So I don't know. What I need to do is I need to stop worrying about the spread. What I did the first few weeks, where you can see I did my best, is I would pick the scores before I saw the spread, and then sometimes I would adjust them. And after the first 3 weeks, then I stopped doing that, and now look at the drop-off. We had a 12-4 week. That's great. My against the spread that week wasn't great anyway, but got to fix that. All in all, that is this week's takeaways, my biggest takeaways from every game, and hopefully you learned something from this video. If you did, or if you didn't, who cares? Like, comment, subscribe, and have a great day.